how's it going? I've been meaning to make more YouTube content as I'm wrapping up this semester for the last couple of weeks. Good news, I'll be graduating next semester, or after next semester, which I'm taking 4 summer classes, but I'm going to be done with college in a few months, and that's very exciting. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for me after I graduate. Um, I'm excited, but also nervous and optimistic. But um, overall, I'm glad to be done with school. Um, with that being said, I also wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind lately, um, as it pertains to uh, how we choose to make historical content creation in this country. You know, whether you're a history like YouTuber who specializes in history, or you're like a modern current issue event like commentator deciding to experiment with historical uh, content creation and documentaries and those sorts of things. So recently, a while back, I tuned into a live stream that featured Mr. Beat and Cynical Historian, which are two of my favorite, or one of my favorite. I've top 5 favorite historical content creators, but they're among those five. So Mr. B and Cynical Historian did a live stream together, and they reacted to Matt Walsh's History of Slavery in America, or what was called like the real history of slavery in America. And I haven't seen that entire documentary, and I probably don't plan on watching it because based on how they reacted to it and based on what I saw during that live stream, I don't think it's going to be good, right? Um, Likewise, I also haven't seen documentaries such as that from Ken Burns yet on the American Revolution, and I still need to watch that because, the 250th is coming up, and this is something he's been working on for a decade, which finally came out. I think it was either this year or last year. But that's also out too. I need to watch that. There's also another American Revolution PBS documentary that has a British woman tour American Revolutionary War battlefields, which I saw on social media. I have to watch that part too because it's good to get the British perspective of things on the American Revolution and what the British thought about that entire conflict and how they viewed George Washington and those sorts of things. So with that said, I wanted to address something regarding Matt Walsh's documentary. Now, it is perfectly fine to make history content even as a current issue news political commentator, so long as you're sticking to the facts and so long as you're telling history as it is, how it happened, all of it, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly. You can't just ignore the good, or you can't just ignore the bad and the ugly in favor of telling the good aspects of American history. And likewise, you can't ignore the good only to just tell the bad and the ugly. You have to find that balance. But what I've noticed from that live stream where they reacted to his documentary, a lot of his takes I just didn't agree with. And it's not that I just didn't disagree with it. I was also disturbed by some of what he said and some of how he established his takes. And I think in one point he said something to the effect that like George Washington had white slaves at Mount Vernon. Okay, that is not historically true. George Washington had employees at Mount Vernon. He had people working in the distillery and farms around Mount Vernon who were white, and he did have, I believe he had some indentured servants at one point who were white, but there are no records of George Washington owning white slaves at Mount Vernon. Okay, so that is historically false. I don't know where he got that information. Also, earlier in that video, like very early in that video, he pulled an article from like a political outlet that said that college students claim that slavery was invented in America. I also don't know where he got that because I think even most Americans acknowledge that slavery just didn't organically, you know, first exist in this country. It's been around for centuries before 1619, right? before Jamestown, before all that stuff. That doesn't absolve the brutality of chattel slavery in American history, though, and we shouldn't ignore that, right? And also, another thing that really bothered me was when he was talking about America's heroes, when he was saying like, oh, the education, professors and the education system are attacking, our founding fathers and our American heroes, our national heroes. He he they literally had like a screenshot or a couple second video clip of that documentary of Robert E. Lee alongside George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison. Okay, let's just get a few things out of the way here, okay? Robert E. Lee betrayed the United States and the very union that the founders, like Washington, Madison, even Jefferson, who was very pro states' rights, all helped to create, okay? Robert E. Lee betrayed his oath. Like, to say that Lee was a national hero is just, it, it ignores the decisions that he took or decided to take when the Civil War broke out. I don't know why he added Lee to the founding fathers, like in terms of the pantheon of American heroes. Why didn't he just add like John Adams or Ben Franklin or Alexander Hamilton or somebody like that? Or if they wanted to, if they wanted to put American heroes from other eras besides the Revolution next to the founders in that like video clip, they could have done like a Frederick Douglass or Dwight Eisenhower, because those guys didn't betray the United States, right? It just makes no sense. Like we don't honor and commemorate Benedict Arnold for betraying the United States in the Revolution. So I don't see why we have to compare between Lee and Arnold. Like, am I missing something here? Is it because Lee reconciled with the country he betrayed after the Civil War, and Arnold didn't reconcile with the newly independent 13 states after the Revolution? Is that why the situations are different, or we make it out to be different because of like different motivations? I mean, regardless of why they decided to turn, they still betray their countries. Or both men betrayed the United States, even though before that they took an oath of allegiance. Right? Arnold did that in like during the Revolutionary War, and Lee did that. According to a cynical historian in the live stream video, um, Lee took an oath to the Constitution like 7 times when he was still in the U.S. Army. 7 times. And then when Virginia seceded at the start of the Civil War and he decided to resign from the Army because he couldn't go against Virginia, which I get it. If you're somebody who's caught between duty to country and protecting your family, I get it. But it's what he immediately decided to do afterwards. Like, not only did he resign from the Army, but he immediately then accepted an offer from the Confederacy to, like, for a government that was established to keep slavery going. Okay? There's no getting around to that. Well, sort of relating to this situation, I'm part of a Facebook group called Descendants of Revolutionary War Patriots, and literally today I saw someone like post a YouTube video of Walsh's documentary, and the comment sections were just, they were brutal. They were brutal. Like one person, you know, they were trying to make the argument that no one should take Walsh's documentary seriously. He's not a historian. He's not a scholar. He doesn't specialize in history. And then there was a person who reacted to that comment and almost made like a whataboutism or a gotcha thing when they referred to like Howard Zinn and his take on American history. Which, I mean, granted, those two men do come at history from their own politics and their own biases. And the thing is too, there's never going to be like, historians are always going to come at how they present a historical figure or an event from a particular point of view, right? To say that historians don't have any biases is misleading. I have bias. I happen to be pro-American colonial patriot in the context of the Revolutionary War. That said, I don't agree with everything that George Washington did. I don't agree with everything the Founding Fathers did. And likewise, even though likewise we like to look at the British as like the bad guys, I also recognize they're, decently well-mannered, well-liked British officers, like John Andre. Even though in popular culture, like the musical Hamilton portrays George III as a one-dimensional tyrant, I realize the reality is a lot more complicated. right? I'm willing to look at all shades of the American Revolution, through the good, the bad, the ugly, and what all sides of that conflict did. But another concerning thing is I don't think the Daily Wire people realized the other half of the equation was that, okay, well, like, we can talk about the good of America as a country, and we can talk about how proud we are, how proud we should be as patriots, but we shouldn't ignore like things like slavery. We shouldn't ignore that things like we shouldn't ignore that child slavery happened, okay? And we shouldn't ignore that just because other countries had slavery long before America, which is true, by the way, that doesn't absolve the fact that America particularly engaged in child slavery, in race-based slavery, and that was a brutal form of slavery. That was evil. That was despicable. Another thing that I found really concerning was that in the documentary, he said that slaves had it better by being sent to the United States, or the colonies that would become the United States, than any of the other places that they were sent on ships to go to work on plantations. Rather than just saying across the board, like, no, this is all bad. It doesn't matter if they're sent to the Caribbean, or if they were sent to North America, or if they were sent to Brazil. It was all bad. Okay? It's just like, it reminds me, too, of some extreme lost cause propagandists or apologists who, will go through lengths to insist that, slavery wasn't all that bad in the South. No, owning other human beings is inherently bad and wrong because you're treating them as subhuman. You're treating them as objects and properties, not as human beings like yourself. That is despicable and disgusting. Okay? So, that's another concerning thing, too. And another concerning thing, going back to the comments section, is social media is ugly, okay? In terms of, like, the discourse and dialogue we have in this country, because it just, like, social media discourse has always been bad, especially in recent years, but I know it's gotten a lot more ugly and nasty lately. Whether it's through things like how we talk about history in this country, or how we talk about stuff going on overseas. That is all just disturbing to me, and I'm worried about where we're heading to as a country. I, I don't want to sound like a doomer, and I honestly don't care for the doomer mindset, but I don't. It's hard to say that everything going on right now is, great and good without, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is room for nuance, okay? It's okay to acknowledge the faults of historical figures, even the ones that we admire, right? It's okay to acknowledge that George Washington could be cruel and harsh at times while also doing great things. Same with Thomas Jefferson and his slave scandals with Sally Hemings, while also simultaneously doing great things like signing the Declaration of Independence and his later presidency and political career, right? Same with Alexander Hamilton and the fact that in his personal life he was known to be a devoted family man, but also acknowledge that he cheated on his wife in an affair that lasted for a year. Okay, there's no getting around to that. So I don't even understand why they have to waste their time, pretending like the bad and the ugly parts of American history didn't exist. It just makes no sense to me as a history minor, as a student of history, as a storyteller. It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Um, and listen, I honestly don't care. As far as like his subscribers go, I don't care if they listen to him, or I don't care if they listen to Howard Zinn or any other political commentators. I don't care. What bugs me is when we start to insult each other, right? And listen, I've been guilty of that myself. It's very easy to get swept up by our passions and then become emotional because of those passions, and then taking it out on others by insulting them, and that is not okay. So I just wanted to lay all that out. I don't intend to make this video very long and boring, but I want to hear y'all's thoughts about this, and let me know in the comments section below, and please keep it civil and respectful, and do not, call each other names, do not, make personal attacks against each other or any of that, no dehumanizing, any of that stuff. So, I'll see y'all